Hey everyone, welcome back to How to Be a Poser. Today we're going to be playing with character interaction, and to do that we'll be using the Rey and Dio 6-scale figure set by Hot Toys. Let's get started. All right, here it is, the Rey and Dio 6-scale figure set by Hot Toys, still in its box exactly the way that it's going to come to you, and look at the vast array of accessories that are included. You've got multiple lightsaber hilts, 2 different colors of blades, her staff, training gear, the signature droid. I can't wait to see what I can do with all this cool stuff, so let's get rolling. All right, here she is, the Rey 6-scale figure with Dio right over here laying on his side, but we'll bring him to life later. We've got, this is a really cool figure here. I've taken a few preemptive steps just to streamline this process. First and foremost, I have taken Dio and put his antennae onto the figure so that we won't have to show you how I go about doing that. It's a very simple process. Just read the instructions and it'll be okay. The other thing I've done is I've taken the liberty of putting the armband onto Rey. You have to take the hand off, take this guy off, slide the armband up, and replace those 2 previously mentioned accessories, and then you'll be good to go. So, I've done some things with a Rey figure before for a different video, so I want to try something a little bit different here. I want to go all out and bring in a lightsaber. Now, one of the things that I should point out is that we have here a waist grabber support as opposed to the typical groin grabber support that we see with most other figures from Hot Toys, Sideshow, what have you. That's cool because when a figure is this slender and you want to have potentially a really cool museum pose where she has like both feet together, having the groin grabber support coming in between her thighs like that has a tendency to force the legs to go apart. And that, I think, this stance right here would probably be the best that you could hope for if you had a groin grabber support in there. But because we have a waist grabber, that means that we can do a lot more. Having said that, we're not going to do that with this pose that I plan on hitting today. I'm going to go more action. So to that end, I want to grab first 1 and then 2 lightsaber hands, and then just go ahead and swap those out. Those holes are nice and snug. Those wrist peg holes in the hands are nice and snug. So you have to really kind of work and wiggle to get them in there. Once they are in there though, you can be confident that they're going to stay put, and that is really what we're about. Let's grab the other hand here. Now notice how I'm kind of working my thumbnail in underneath the wrist peg as I pull the hand off. That's so that I don't have to worry about trying to get the wrist pegs back into the figure. Sometimes they can be a bit tricky to get the wrist pegs back in. I mean, it obviously can be done because they're in there now, but I'd rather avoid having to mess with it, so I'm just going to leave that off. Let's go ahead and really slowly again wiggle back and forth until we've got that wrist peg slid home in the, yeah, there we go. Now again, just showing you right here, I want to be sure that you can see that the top of this van brace, what have you, is over the top of her hand. And if you swivel, then you're going to want to rotate that to compensate because that's where that should always be. All right, that's done. So let's make sure she's got some good solid footing here to start with. I can tweak that again later. Something that you may run into, and this is just a natural state with when you're dealing with a costume that has this many elements, including a cummerbund and a belt, it's always good to make sure that the belt stays in the middle of the cummerbund. When you're messing with things, the belt may get knocked up here or down here or whatever, and that's cool. Sometimes when you're wearing an outfit like that, that can actually happen. But so if you do knock it askew and wind up leaving it that way, don't be too hard on yourself. I'm talking from experience here. But try to stay on top of it and keep that belt just physically centered right there vertically on the cummerbund. So for this particular pose that I have in mind today, I'm going to want to use the Luke Skywalker hilt. And I'm going to try to get it into her hands, both of her hands at the same time, because I want her swinging it overhead, or actually from the side. So the blade is going to be coming like from this side, like she's getting ready to slash with it, or like she's just blocked with it. Now that pose is going to evolve as we proceed with actually executing it. We'll see where it lands. So trying to remember, I think that Rey is right-handed like I am, so she's going to have her right hand on the top of the saber, left hand handling this grip right down here. So let's go ahead and now notice how pliable these hands are. you can just go ahead and bend the fingers back and then wrap it around the top of the saber hilt. Nice firm grip like that. And kind of just get it gradually into the position that it's going to be in. Let's see how far over we can take this arm. Now notice how I did that. Grab here at the shoulder, rotate it up, just raise that arm. And then once you've got that, then you can bend it and then bring it around to where it's going to be grabbing the lightsaber hilt. Again, bending the fingers down. This time we're going to grab the thumb and bend it around too. So you have now both hands on the saber. The weird thing about these Graflex hilts is if you've ever held one in your hands, they're not really well known for being ergonomic. But that's just what they had to work with back in 1977, and they're bringing that forward today. Okay, so we've got that saber hilt going, and I'm just going to, you can see what I'm kind of doing here. I'm just grabbing the saber. I've got this arm between my between my index finger and my middle finger, and this hand I'm going to grab them with my ring finger and my thumb. By holding them both at the same time, I can kind of bend them simultaneously and get them into the position that I want the figure to be in. Now, I kind of bent that arm a little too far there to the point that it's starting to look unnatural. That's another thing that you have to contend with these soft bodies. So, bending this back, bringing it up, and then kind of adjusting her head to compensate just so I get an idea. You can see when she's looking at you that you've got this cool little bend to her elbow that's nicely framing her face. That's really what we want. So, let's go ahead and bring this blade in here just so I know just how much room I've got to contend with here. Now, that's where I want her to be. But the real question is, how crazy do we want this pose to be? One of the things that will determine how crazy we go with the pose is going to be these non-cut boots. So we're going to want at least one foot to be on the ground. You can see that I'm kind of bending this one, bringing this foot forward, kind of making that my stable foot, and this one is going to come back, remain relatively straight, and then we're going to rotate that boot so that it kind of stays on the ground. Now, what looks better? I'm thinking that rotating the body this way is going to be what we want to do. And we're going to swivel that leg outward a little bit, just kind of like a lateral movement there. And then we're going to lean her forward more and then bring that head up to compensate. I don't really like how straight that lightsaber is. It's not 100% perpendicular to the ground, but I'm just going to rotate it back just a touch. Again, working both hands simultaneously. There we go, rotate that around. And I think that's ever so slightly better. But I want her eyes on the prize there, so I'm just going to get her head up. She's focused on, I'm guessing, Kylo Ren. If you have the Kylo Ren figure in your arsenal, in your figure arsenal, then this would be a really, really cool pose to hit. I had originally intended to use this with the stand, but what I'm finding is I've hit a pose that doesn't really need it. So if you wanted to display her without the stand, you probably could using this pose. Yeah, okay. It's a little bit crooked, but by straightening that leg, we can actually create some stability there, and boom, done and done. That's pretty cool. What that doesn't allow us to do, though, is to bring in Dio, because he is a wheel droid, and he's going to keep falling. So I'm going to see if we can't get her to do this on the stand. I might have to adjust the pose ever so slightly to make it work. Again, this is a waist grabber support, so we want it to come around the waist. Now, the cool thing about the tabards that she's wearing is that we can kind of hide part of that stand. You won't have to look at the front of it. So let's drop that down. Drop that stand down there. Cool. And you can see that her foot is just barely hitting the back of it, so that's also cool. And let's go ahead and drop Dio there. You can see there's a magnet that's going to hold him in place. And then just mess with him, bring her tabards around, kind of create just a little bit of flow there. And the cool thing about Dio is that he is shy. He's a timid little droid. So what you've got here is basically he's kind of hugging Rey's leg, just looking to her for a little bit of protection. That's what I'm telling myself here. I kind of like that interaction there. That just fits really, really well with his character. I'm just going to adjust this just a little bit more. I want her leaning a little bit further forward, showcasing a little bit more aggression. Now you can see that how her foot has lifted off the ground here. Very clearly not desirable, so we can adjust that by just lowering the stand just a little bit more, and that brings her foot onto the ground, and Bob is your uncle. Now, just looking at that, as you rotate it around, she looks like she's a little bit unstable, so I'm going to kind of step her off the stand and adjust that leg so that she's like stepping up onto the base. Bring that pant leg around. See if I can see this. And then again, leaning her forward into the action. Make sure that head is straight up and down. And you kind of get that look like she's looking from below the eyebrows. And rotate Dio around again, so he's just kind of hugging her leg. And I think that's a good first, yeah, that's good. And you can also adjust Dio here, just kind of give him a little bit more personality. Because you can see that you can kind of get him looking down like he's rolling really fast going forward, like maybe he's moving in the same direction that she is. I kind of like that, actually. Or if you really wanted to have him being kind of timid, lean him back, have him looking up at her maybe a little bit, yeah? All sorts of different options, but it's up to you. In this case though, I'm gonna have him leaning forward like they're both moving into battle. Totally breaks character with Dio, but I'm okay with that. And there it is. The character of Rey is clearly half the focal point of the sequel trilogy, the other half being the redemption of Ben Solo. This figure, though, clearly shows Rey at her zenith, having already overcome the temptations of the dark side. And the fact that this set is the only way to add Dio to my collection kind of makes it a no-brainer for me.
Did you enjoy that video? Be sure to subscribe by hitting the S icon on your screen and click the bell icon to be notified whenever a new video is posted. If you'd like more info on the items featured in this video, click the link provided under product info. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to let your geek side show.